Good afternoon, Superkickin with Steven fans. Thanks for joining me. Ready to talk up all the week in wrestling. We got some Raw talk, some AEW talk, NXT talk, and of course Smackdown talk. We have 2 matches official rep for WrestleMania, so we are officially on the fast lane towards WrestleMania, if you call it what I did there. So let's get started. I'm your host right there, Stephen A. 1181 on Twitter, and of course you're on the Facebook page, so you're in the best place you can get it. So thank you for joining me as well on the YouTube page for BW Sports 1 and on the Facebook page for Black and White Sports. So glad to have you here. If you're a first-time viewer, if you've been viewing me all along, so I appreciate it. Just keep it up. Ready? Let's get right into it. Let's talk some Raw talk. On the Raw side of things, we're talking about WrestleMania. I'm a little unsure where Raw is heading. I think we got some idea, but this fast lane pay-per-view will definitely tell which direction we're going as far as the WWE title is concerned. Because right now we have The Miz. He's the current champion, so The Miz won it and cashed it in. But the night before Raw happened at Elimination Chamber, we saw that MVP was talking backstage to The Miz. And so we come to find out that Bobby Lashley has earned a title shot at The Miz for helping The Miz cash in that Money in the Bank briefcase. So the Bobby Lashley came out and was like, hey, you got an hour to decide if you're going to give me this title shot. Because The Miz is like, no. He kind of backtracked off it. So we had a little countdown happening throughout in that first hour. Some matches happened in that first hour as well. We had Riddle defeat John Morrison, the new U.S. champion, Matt Riddle. I believe it was talked about that Matt Riddle hadn't signed yet, but obviously I think he re-signed because he just earned that U.S. title. And I hope usually our champions lose right off the bat, but I think Riddle would be a stronger champion. And of course, any champion would be stronger if you pick up some wins and then maybe in a month or two, maybe in a couple months or a few months, then he gets beat by somebody to earn that, if they want to earn a title shot or have people built up in a contendership for him. But Riddle picked up the win. I think he's going to make a good U.S. champion if they book him the right way, as always we like to say. So the New Day defeated Mason T-Bar from Retribution. Oh, man. The writing is on the wall. Retribution's dead. We cannot keep going with them. Ali kind of berated all of them. I thought they were going to pick up some steam. This, Retribution thing has just been mishandled from the beginning. It looked so good. You thought Ali kind of helping out, explaining the hacker role that he was doing. But it's just like they don't want to they don't want to go all in on it. So I think Ali can keep going on his own. Obviously, I think him and Kofi Kingston are heading towards WrestleMania. Probably Fastlane match, possibly like a tag team match, and then a singles match there for Ali and Kofi Kingston. But after WrestleMania, I think after WrestleMania, Retribution's done. You write off, Mace, T-Bar, Slapjack, Reckoning, and just keep him off TV for a few weeks, and then bring him back as themselves. Dominic Divojack. And you have Shane Thorne, and you have now I can't remember his name, but he used to be on. He was the announcer. So, anyways, and then of course Mia Yim. I think you just let them get off TV, get rid of the mask. Let them kind of figure out what they want to do with them. So, we came to the end of the first hour. We had Bobby Lashley out there. We had Adam Pearce out there. And we had The Miz out there, kind of figuring out, is The Miz going to call it out? We had Braun Strowman come out and say, hey, I deserve a title shot. He was not allowed in the Elimination Chamber match. He called out Shane McMahon. That should be a good foreshadowing for what's headed for WrestleMania. I think we're going to get Braun Strowman and Shane McMahon as well. So I guess things are coming to, kind of light, but you still wonder, what is that going to do for Braun Strowman, as far as after the fact? I mean, he beat Shane, then what? So, or he loses to Shane, then what? They've been up and down on Braun as well. I think Braun Strowman right now is probably in Big Show territory where he's going to pick up wins here and there, maybe get title shots here and there. but it's going to be a lot of start and stop with him. And that's kind of been the story of his career anyway. I think they just give him what he can, and he does the best he can with it. But we'll see where Braun Strowman goes. But I do think we did talk about later, or we found out later in the night that Braun Strowman, if he would have beat Bobby Lashley, he would have been inserted into the Bobby Lashley Miz WWE title match coming this Monday. But as you can tell, Braun Strowman did not win that. So I think Braun is going to keep calling about Shane. And then finally, like I said, at WrestleMania, we'll get a match between the two. Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin defeated Lucha House Party in the Tornado Tag Team match. Once again, we're kind of up in the air about who's going to come next for the tag team titles. I mean, I think if you would have built up Retribution, you could have had some of their members come after it. Obviously, we always have the New Day. I think Miz and John Morrison are going to face Damian Priest and Bad Bunny in a tag team title or tag team match at WrestleMania. So hard to get them, involved. And right now, there's just, tag teams are very thin on WWE. I mean, and personally, I'd probably pull the trigger at WrestleMania and unify the tag team titles and be like the women's side of things and just have them defended across the brands. There's not enough tag teams right there on Raw right now to feel like I have no clue, and you got 2 nights. So you think all the titles should be defended at some part in some fashion at WrestleMania, with it being 2 nights and you have 4 hours of 8 hours over 2 nights. I would think you could find 10 minutes, but right now I don't know who you throw out there for those tag team titles right now. So speaking of Damian Priest, we had him defeat Angel Garza. A good match. We're building up Damian Priest. I think people are high on him in the back. He obviously looks more ready for the main roster than I thought in NXT, especially the pairing with Bad Bunny. So I think that has helped him out a lot as well. Sheamus defeated Jeff Hardy. Nothing much to talk about there. I think we're going to get Sheamus and Drew McIntyre in some fashion. Maybe we get them at Fastlane, kind of build that up. But then I don't know. Maybe it might be Sheamus in a triple threat with Drew McIntyre, with Bobby Lashley for WrestleMania. I think right now I'm looking at Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre as the WWE title match. I think Lashley will win it at Fastlane. I don't think he wins it this Monday. I think Drew McIntyre comes in there and wrecks everything, or The Miz wins by DQ or some fashion so that Lashley doesn't get the title. Maybe he'd have John Morrison come in and, mess up the match. So we'll see. But I thought they were heading towards Drew and Sheamus. Maybe they'll hold off. If Drew gets the title back at WrestleMania, you can do that for the summer program, kind of building up to SummerSlam. But right now, I'm not sure where Sheamus is headed, or Jeff Hardy. I also did forget to mention that Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler defeated Charlotte Flair and Asuka. This time, Charlotte Flair went for a kick and hit Asuka. Charlotte goes to help Asuka, and Asuka just pushes away. So I guess we're going to get Charlotte and Asuka for the women's title, of the Raw women's title at WrestleMania. That seems to be the way they're going. I still think I'd rather see Alexa and Asuka get it and kind of see, let Alexa get the title off of Asuka. But it does look like all signs are pointing to Charlotte Flair and Asuka at WrestleMania, kind of a rematch from WrestleMania 34. AJ Styles defeated Ricochet. Nothing much to talk about there. Once again, where's AJ Styles headed? Ricochet just keeps going down the line. Also, Naomi and Lana defeated Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. I would have liked to see Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke pick up the upset. We already know Naomi and Lana are getting a title shot at Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. So I don't think they necessarily needed the win here. I think you could have had Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke make a case that they could be back in the title picture and, give more women at Nia and Shayna right now. But we did have Naomi and Lana, I guess, just to keep building them up. Look like, build them strong towards that title match. Don't know if it happens at Fastlane. I mean, do you hold it off to WrestleMania? Maybe. But right now, we obviously know Lana and Naomi. We are going to also see Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler defend the titles against Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez on NXT, I believe this week or next week. So kind of get that title shot out of the way for those women down there in NXT. And then Naomi and Lana probably are the next up. But, like I said, maybe at Fastlane. And I guess if you want to go full circle, Lana and Naomi have to win those tag team titles. And, let that story of Lana overcoming Nia Jax and all that she's overcame. And then finally, I did mention earlier, so Braun Strowman earned a match against Bobby Lashley to, if he wins, he would get inserted into a title match on this coming Raw. So it would have been Lashley, Miz, and Braun Strowman, but Bobby Lashley defeated Braun Strowman. Bobby Lashley laid him out and kind of laid out the Miz and held up the title. So that's why I said I don't think this Monday the trigger is going to get pulled, but I do think at Fastlane we're going to see Bobby Lashley, the Miz face each other for the WWE title, and Bobby Lashley will win there. So that's my Raw talk. Let's do some SmackDown talk, and then we'll take a small break and kind of build up, AEW and NXT. So SmackDown, we had Roman Reigns out there talking up, how he's still the man, and he took care of Daniel Bryan, which of course brought out Daniel Bryan. And Daniel Bryan said, "Hey, I want to match up against you at Fastlane with, no qualifiers, no beating up stuff, just a straight up match." And Roman Reigns and Jey Uso just took out Daniel Bryan. Also, we did have a backstage segment that Edge was upset because Edge had mentioned that he was ready for a tag team match at Fastlane against Jey Uso and Roman Reigns. And ultimately, I think that's where we're going to be headed. So what happened at the end of the night, we'll kind of, go to the end and start our way and then kind of touch up things here. So Daniel Bryan and Jey Uso had a match. If Daniel Bryan would have won, he would be inserted into a title match at Fastlane against Roman Reigns for the Universal title. It ended in a double countout because they were fighting each other outside the ring. Daniel Bryan put Jey Uso in the yes lock. Roman Reigns comes out there. Roman and Jey Uso just took out Daniel Bryan. No sign of Edge. And I think we're going to play that up this coming Friday. So we're getting a steel cage match. It just came out about half hour ago on Talking Smack or so, that Daniel Bryan, Jey Uso will fight again in a steel cage match. I wonder if maybe you have Roman out there. I think Jey Uso needs a win, and I think Daniel Bryan could be okay if he doesn't win. So I think Jey Uso needs to win this steel cage match somehow, because I think it was the stat was Jey Uso hasn't won a match since November. That's quite a bit of time, and for him calling himself main event Uso and all this, you got to pick up something. He hasn't won in tag matches. He hasn't won in singles matches. It's just been, too much. So, because what I think you do at Fastlane is you just do Edge and Daniel Bryan against Roman and Jey. And, maybe there's some tension with Daniel and Edge, but they still end up winning the match at Fastlane. And maybe Daniel Bryan still finds his way. Maybe it's a triple threat. Maybe it's Roman, Reigns, Daniel Bryan, and Edge. I mean, we've changed WrestleMania matches as it is. So, I think that might be the best bet right there. Unless now there also is the idea that maybe Jimmy Uso's due back. So my mind's kind of thinking, well, what if we do the Usos versus Daniel Bryan and Kevin Owens? That gives them some high profile match at WrestleMania. It builds up Usos as well, especially if they beat, Daniel Bryan and Kevin Owens at WrestleMania. So that could be something to talk about as well down the road. Because right now, like I said, I think the best bet right now, we know for sure it's Roman Reigns and Edge at WrestleMania for the Universal title. But that doesn't mean they can't slide in Daniel Bryan. So some other things to talk about on SmackDown. We also saw Otis and Chad Gable defeat Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio. On Twitter, the people were joking this will be, one of the next 5 months, but hopefully Otis and Chad Gable just keep picking up those wins and, working their way up. Even though right now Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode are heels, I think you could build up Otis and Chad Gable to go after those tag team titles. So we also saw a new kind of heel role for Otis in that match, and we saw a heel role for Apollo Crews. Talking about wealth and greed and dominance and all this, and embracing his roots, as it were, embracing his Nigerian heritage, and really coming at Big E. Big E probably is going to be written off for a little bit of time, just kind of let that sink in that Apollo Crews really took it to Big E, which I think we're going to see Big E, obviously, and Apollo Crews at WrestleMania one-on-one. Apollo Crews defeated Shinsuke Nakamura to kind of build himself up, and I think Apollo will keep building up wins and keep calling out Big E, until we finally get that one-on-one match. Tamina defeated Liv Morgan. Unfortunately, Riot Squad keep losing matches, and like I said, I think you got to pull the trigger on Billie Kay helping them somehow win and get a tag team title shot and possibly win those tag team titles to make that everything come full circle. Bianca Belair was out there to announce her WrestleMania plans. Interesting that they didn't mention NXT. Last year we mentioned NXT, and then you had Edge. It just, I wish they would just, go all in on it. Have Bianca Belair say, "Oh, I'm going to either go after NXT champion, Raw Women's champion, or the SmackDown." But and last year Charlotte went after it and won the titles. So it's weird how we're just kind of hit or miss with that. Going all in it. But Bianca Belair did announce officially that she's challenging Sasha Banks. Best match there in history making. I believe my stat checking isn't the best. I'll have to get my fact finding crew on it, but I believe this is the first one-on-one match of African American ladies on WrestleMania. In a singles match for a big title. I mean, it has to be history in the way. So now, what's interesting is Reginald, who's starting to get more over than Carmella, which is not good. It makes me think back to the days of Alberto Del Rio and Rodriguez, his announcer, who got over more than Alberto Del Rio. So they got to be careful with Reginald. I think he's finding his way, unless the plan is to write him off, from Carmella at some point. I think he's going to work his way to getting Carmella in that title picture as well somehow. Maybe Fastlane Bianca Belair puts up her title shot against Carmella and then wins. But we always had these little twists and turns leading up to WrestleMania. But I do think, Carmella is going to keep keeping herself, by Reginald's help, keeping in that title picture. The Street Profits defeated King Corbin and Sami Zayn. The Sami Zayn's film crew distracted King Corbin. That cost him the match. Obviously, we're probably seeing King Corbin and Sami Zayn kind of go at it. Wonder if you might almost turn Sami Zayn face in a way, get the crowd back on his side. I think he's a good heel, but he's also a great baby face. I mean, his NXT run was all been, again, against that, the underdog from the underground. So, and then Seth Rollins called out Cesaro. Cesaro came out there and said, "Nope, I'm not joining you." Swung him many times, swung him again, and that was the end of that. So obviously we're going to probably see Cesaro and Seth Rollins over the next few months. I think Fastlane, probably WrestleMania, and then if there's, Backlash right after WrestleMania, that kind of finishes off the feud. But probably good for Cesaro. I think, they can go back and forth, maybe 1-1, and then a rubber match where Cesaro hopefully will get the better end of it. And, we can build up Cesaro back again. So that's SmackDown talk. Like I said, we had Daniel Bryan and Jey Uso in the double countout, but we'll have Daniel Bryan and Jey Uso in a steel cage match to kind of build that up and see what happens there. If Daniel Bryan wins that match, he'd be inserted into Fastlane as the Universal title picture. All right, so we're going to get into a quick break, and then we'll talk some NXT, some AEW, and then we'll call it a day.
What is up, everybody? It's your boy Dan over at BWSports1.com and Black and White Sports. And I'm wondering if you're ready to buy or sell that home, now's the time, and I got just the person for you. Mr. Sean Nugent, a.k.a. Rockstar Realtor himself. 317-503-8322. Put that home on the market. Get into your dream home with this man. Talk to Sean at Talk to Tucker today, 317-503-8322, and make sure you tell him the boys over at BWSports1.com sent you.
All right, and we're back, ready to talk up our AEW talk and our NXT talk, kind of give you the lowdown on where things are going. AEW's head towards Revolution. I think NXT's head towards the takeover, hopefully happening at WrestleMania, but then again, I hope some matches happen at WrestleMania as well if we're not going to do a takeover. But we did have Dexter Lumis defeating NXT North American champion Johnny Gargano. And then there was a backstage segment where Gargano told Austin Theory, I don't know what's got into you, but you're going to therapy. And we also had Indy Hartwell say how she thinks Dexter Lumis is hot. So the way is all over the place with Dexter Lumis and trying to figure that out. But probably it's showing that Dexter Lumis is going to go after that North American title of Johnny Gargano. Could win it, but we'll kind of see where they go with that. We saw a more aggressive, more heelish Isaiah Swerve Scott attack Leon Ruff. Leon Ruff was supposed to have a match with Tyler Rust, and that didn't happen. So we have Isaiah Swerve Scott kind of building himself up. We also had NXT Women's Champion Io Shirai defeated Zoe Stark in a non-title match. Toni Storm came out there and said, hey, I want a one-on-one matchup. And in 2 weeks, we will see Io Shirai and Toni Storm go one-on-one for the NXT Women's Championship. I don't think Toni Storm's going to win it. If she did, I wouldn't be against it. But I think they'll put on a great match there for NXT TV. We saw Xia Li continue her purging of, women, and she hurt Casey Castanero, and now Casey I think she got legitimately hurt, and I think she's going to be out for some time. So Xia Li can keep building herself up. Don't know what the plan is for Xia Li. You can only keep doing this so often. I think you got to have a plan for, do something with it as well. So Grizzled Young Veterans defeated Killian Dane and Drake Maverick. GYV, Grizzled Young Veterans, also took out MSK, and Wes Lee, I believe, is hurt legitimately as well with a broken hand, and they were supposed to get a title shot. So I wonder if he'll slide in Grizzled Young Veterans into that title picture kind of, until MSK can get all the way healthy. Karrion Kross defeated NXT champion Santos Escobar in a no DQ non-title match. Karrion Kross just wreaked havoc over everything, taking out Legado de Fantasma, and of course taking out, Santos Escobar in the match, building himself up because pretty much this was all about Adam Cole. Adam Cole revitalizing him, re-energizing himself, getting himself back over. He super kicked Finn Balor, and he delivered a nice low blow to Roderick Strong and took off the dog tag that they always wore, the Undisputed Era. So I think Undisputed Era, is completely done. I think Bobby Fish is next up. I don't know when Adam Cole takes him out, but obviously that's going to happen. But here's what's interesting. I think, I'm curious to see how we'll all play this out, because obviously I think we want Karrion Kross back in that title picture for NXT. Adam Cole's going to be back in that picture. Finn Balor is the champion. And I think you could even have Pete Dunne in there. Do you do a fatal four-way that kind of protects, two other guys if they don't take the loss? So there's a lot of pieces there. Personally, I think I'd pull for Karrion Kross to win. But this heel role of Adam Cole, he could be a 3-time NXT champion, which would be quite something. But I think Karrion Kross is he was hurt in his title match, didn't get a really chance to see what he could do with it. So I think ultimately Karrion Kross will stand tall, get that NXT title, probably at WrestleMania weekend. And I'd probably put this on the WrestleMania event. If we're not going to do an NXT takeover event, I'd love to see Finn Balor with a nice entrance, Karrion Kross with his entrance, go at it for the NXT title at WrestleMania. Maybe you throw Adam Cole in there as well, and Karrion Kross can just wreak havoc on both of them. So that's kind of where NXT is headed. We'll also look at AEW, and then we'll call it a day. So some things to talk about AEW. I think we had Jon Moxley cut out a really nice promo after beating Ryan Nemeth, the Hollywood hunk, who is Dolph Ziggler's brother, just in case you need to know that bit of information. But we had Jon Moxley, just keep on his matchup. He just defeated Kenta last night to retain his New Japan title, and he was in a blood sport match the night before or week before. He's done a lot this week. And then, of course, next Sunday, the 7th, he'll be in the exploding barbed wire death match, which I cannot wait to see how they pull that off. We also had Brian Cage and Ricky Starks defeat the Varsity Blondes. I started to say Hollywood Blondes, but the Varsity Blondes. And we saw Sting show up with Darby Allin, and they brought the body bag, and it was actually Hook, who's Taz's son, in there. So we have, Sting and Darby Allin getting the best of Cage and Starks this week. We had Jake Hager defeat Brandon Cutler. The big story here is MJF and Chris Jericho were called out by the Young Bucks. But unfortunately, Chris Jericho and MJF were in the backstage with the Young Bucks' father, Papa Buck. And they took him out, threw him against a truck where the Young Bucks' big, cutouts are on there, or their, decals. So we're building that as personal. And, I'm sure we'll see where they could go next, leading into Revolution, as we have the Young Bucks going against MJF and Chris Jericho at Revolution. Adam Page defeated Isaiah Cassidy. We had Matt Hardy take out some of the Dark Order. And we also had Hangman Page finally kind of start to embrace the Dark Order as he walked back. He was checking on 5 of the Dark Order, and he was with Alex and John Silver. So Alex Reynolds and John Silver. So we're getting there, and we'll see how that plays out for Adam Page being the new leader of the Dark Order, as they kind of go that way. Kind of the surprise of the night, I think, was Naya Rose defeated Britt Baker. And I was reading it online, it doesn't – I'm curious, when are we going to go all in on Britt Baker? I think Britt Baker should have won this match. She's grown on me. She was the first signee for AEW. So she's obviously important to them. But it feels like we are a little bit starting to stop with her as well. And, I think that would have really done something for her. Even if she was going to lose a title match down the road, you beat Naya Rose and, build yourself up. But I was very surprised that we didn't have Britt Baker defeat Naya Rose in this match. And we did have Lance Archer in the end defeat Phoenix to get himself into the Face of the Revolution ladder match, which features Scorpio Sky, Cody Rhodes, Penta El Zero, and now Lance Archer. I'm not sure if there's going to be any other names. I haven't really seen any other names announced, but we'll see if maybe this week they announce maybe another qualifier. Maybe you get an extra couple guys in there, but some interesting names. Cody Rhodes being a former champion, Scorpio Sky, he was really built up, I think 2019-ish. It seemed like he was really heading somewhere. And Penta Zero is obviously important to, Ray Phoenix. And Lance Archer was actually defeated by Cody Rhodes. So you have all these guys mixed in with each other, that can really do something and, have a good ladder match. So that's where Revolution is headed. We'll have predictions about Revolution next week, as that's happening Sunday, March 7th. Fastlane's the week after that, and then we have WrestleMania the 2 nights. And man, it's a busy time for wrestling. So I hope you've been enjoying me giving you the talk on every weekday morning. I try to give you 10-minute, a few minutes of wrestling talk that comes from the night before. And thanks for all the support, and just keep it going. And if you want to join me for my WrestleMania prediction show, I'd love to have all the faces we can on there. Think it'll be a fun way to get WrestleMania weekend kicked off. So thank you for joining, and talk to you guys later.